Welcome to The Photography Guy. I'm your host, The Photography Guy. Let's get started here with another great photo show. Hey, yes, good morning, everybody, and welcome to The Photography Guy. This is episode number 70 for Sunday, January the 25th, 2015. I'm your host, Jack, and I'm here to help guide you through that magical world of photography. Thanks for joining me here this morning to learn more about your cameras and making great photographs. If you have a minute, please check out the website at thephotographyguy.net. photographyguy.net, where you can comment on these shows. If you're listening to the audio podcast, you probably want to go over and check out the video. I've been doing a lot of work here, as I'm going to tell you in a second. Try to capture this video for YouTube, and it's been a strain. But check us out at 42 Technoman on YouTube. Also, please visit my new learning site where you can learn all the great details about Photoshop elements and more to come soon at jtclearning.com. Once again, that's jtclearning.com. And believe it or not, a lot of you might not know there's actually a podcasting class over there where you can learn to podcast from A to Z, everything from initially building a website all the way up to creating a great audio podcast. And you can find hours of photography training at a price that everybody can afford. Now, I do have a special announcement this morning that I wanted to bring up and bring to your attention here. Today, some of you might have noticed that we are streaming now on Vaughn Live. Is currently where I'm streaming right now this morning. So if you're coming over from the other site, live stream, I had a lot of trouble, as you noticed last week possibly, with their what's called the encoder. And that's just a device or a piece of software that goes on the computer, but it was killing the computer to the point where the audio was no longer matching the stream. And we had a bunch of issues last week. So every evening this past week, I've been staying up till about midnight trying to come up with the best possible stream. I've been practicing. People's been logging onto my stream going, hey, what are you broadcasting? I'm like, nothing. I'm just kind of testing out the system. And I did that through the week and tried to find the best possible stream that I can deliver to you in the best possible content. So I'm trying to do that today with Vaughn Live here. I used to stream a lot with Vaughn. If you might have noticed, we are not streaming under people. We are currently streaming under creativity on Vaughn. So if you're looking for us, we are under creativity because I believe that this is a place where we're creating something great together. Last week, I had a bunch of trouble when I uploaded the YouTube video. I got a bunch of emails. I got a bunch of messages, and I'm very sorry about that. And I know it looked like the old Godzilla movie. Do you remember those? Like he goes, doing, and his mouth would move like 3 seconds after the audio because they couldn't sync those together decades ago. And that was a problem. That's a big problem. So I stayed up last night till 2 in the morning working on some solutions, and I'm still not positive I have one. So we'll see what happens today. The software that I use to record my shows, the company rewrote the software. I bought the new updated version, and it broke what I used to do, so I can't use it anymore anyway. So anyway, but if you are watching me this morning on Vaughn Live, thank you very much for joining me here, and please click on the follow button. That would allow you to receive an email blast. Sign up for a free Vaughn Live account and follow me here, because then you can get an email that says, hey, Jack's going live. Also, don't forget to join us on our Facebook group, and that is at Jack's Tech Corner. We have over 500 folks there, and 500 folks, and it seems like it's just growing every day. And I did actually see Peter is in the chat room this morning with Fabian. I did see in there that Peter put in there that the syncing is good today. And I did put that in my show notes. If you can get in the chat room and let me know how the video is doing throughout this broadcast, and also let me know how the audio is doing throughout this broadcast, I would really, really appreciate it. And if there's any programmers out there that can help Vaughn Live out, if you program for iOS, if you program for Android phones, or if you program for the Roku box, maybe help Vaughn, get a hold of their programmers and say, look, I'll give you guys a hand, maybe programming some apps so people can watch these things on the go. So that might be a big help to those folks. All right, we're going to get underway here. And the first thing, I don't know how many of you out there still read magazines. I still get a magazine every month, and I should have brought a copy up here. I'm surprised I don't have one in the studio. But it is actually a photography magazine. I don't really remember which one it is, and I just read it this morning. But anyway, I was reading through it yesterday, and I came across a really cool little article, something I didn't know, and I'm sure you probably don't know it either. And if you do, then you might be one step ahead of me. Now, here's what it says. There's no doubt that JPEG is the web's go-to image format. Maybe the world's, right? Everybody uses JPEG, offering both widespread compatibility and small file sizes. But its compression artifacts and an 8-bit limitation means it's far from perfect. The alternative image formats that have been developed that provide high-quality compression, but nothing yet has come close to toppling JPEG thanks to its ubiquity. So it's pretty much cross-platform. It works pretty much everywhere. It's on every camera. But now there's a gentleman working on a brand new format, and it's called BPG. BPG. It's the latest new format to challenge JPEG. This was created by Fabrice Billard. It's Bellard, a developer responsible for other open source projects. BPG stands for Better Portable Graphics and offers a number of improvements over JPEG formats. Most notably, BPG is based on the HEVC/H.265 video compression format. And if you're familiar with that, that's full HD video. This is a major advantage over other non-standard image formats, as H.265 will likely be supported by hardware soon. BPG, that's hard to say, is more efficient algorithm also supports up to 14-bit files rather than the JPEG's 8-bit support. It also uses the same means to chroma subsampling of a JPEG, which is good for transcoding. The format also features support for EXIF, and other metadata tags, as well as lossless compression. When comparing images of roughly the same file size, BPG offers noticeably fewer artifacts than JPEG. As well, other more optimized formats like Google's WebP, and demonstrates it in the image comparison tool it's called GitHub. So if you ever go there, you can compare images. The substantial improvements over JPEG make BPG an appealing alternative. But for now, ability to use the format is limited to use with JavaScript decoder. So apparently there's a JavaScript decoder. Now, if you don't know what that is, JavaScript is just usually written for the web. Sometimes it's written as standalone programs, but not very much. And what they're talking about here is the ability to put your picture into there. And I guess you wouldn't be converting a JPEG. You're not going to convert 8-bit to 14-bit. But it gives you the ability to maybe put a raw, and I haven't tried this, so maybe put a raw image in there and convert it to this new BPG format, this better portable graphics format. So is this something we're going to see on our cameras within the next year? Probably not. But if it gets, overall adoption throughout the industry, then maybe we will. The file sizes it states are about the same size, so I think we're okay there. So it's something to think about anyway, and something to maybe look forward to later on down the road. So we're going to do two things this morning. I was working on some. First thing, I think Fabian, I know at least Fabian and Peter seen the new opener I worked on yesterday. I wanted to kind of spice up the show a little bit, make it a little bit more interesting on the opener there instead of just me sitting there playing the audio. So the new opener, if you didn't catch that, watch the YouTube video. Hopefully I'll have that up, and if everything works out for me today. But what I thought we would do today, the first thing we're going to do is we are going to do a Photoshop Elements edit. That's an edit I did some years ago, but I'm bringing it back, and it's because we have so many new people watching these shows. And I think a lot of time, and I don't understand it, maybe I do, but what I'm getting is a lot of times people won't go through the YouTube videos. They won't go to my YouTube channel and go back like, 100 videos or, even 80 videos or 50 and look to see what I did in the past. A lot of people believe, now I'm going to try to set everybody straight here with this one. A lot of people believe that if you did the edit in Photoshop Elements, let's say 6 or 8, that it won't work in Photoshop Elements 13. Well, it will work. This is kind of the stuff as they build new Photoshop Elements versions or new Lightroom versions, they add a couple new tools, but my old edits will work. So, and so go back and watch some of those videos. I mean, it won't hurt. Just because it says Elements 6 or Elements 8 or whatever's on my video, go back and watch it, and you can do those edits. But I wanted to bring this one to you this morning. I was looking at it yesterday. And honestly, when I was looking at this thing yesterday and I was sitting up here and I kept saying, I can't believe I did that. I can't believe I came up with that. And my wife was saying, what are you talking about? Why are you talking to yourself? And I said, well, when I watch some of these videos and the time I put in to create the edit, I was just blown away by how it actually worked out. So it's a really good one. And then what we're going to do is I have this disc in my hand for the audience, for the audio audience out there. I'm holding up my SD card. I went to my stepdaughter got an award yesterday at college, so we went to her college, and it was during halftime of the basketball game. So I took some pictures of the basketball game with my 70 by 200 millimeter Sigma lens, and I shot some pictures of her, her mom, and her dad, and her sisters. On the card. I haven't looked at them yet, so this morning we'll be putting them in Lightroom. I'm just going to show you a little bit of the power of Lightroom if you've never used it. Stick around. I mean, this isn't a sell thing. I mean, if you buy it, you buy it. I always suggest you download the trial version and play with it and see what you think about it. But if you don't have it, at least you'll be able to say, hey, I've seen Lightroom. I know what it looks like. I kind of know what it does. And it's a pretty powerful tool. So you're going to kind of see my workflow this morning with this disc, and we're going to look at some pictures and talk about a little bit of lighting because in gymnasiums, and folks, it doesn't get any better at the college level, the lighting is still horribly bad. I think they hire people that hate photographers when they put lights in gymnasiums. They say, hey, do you like photographers? They're like, no, I don't like, I hate photographers. Yeah, we'll hire you to put the lights in because the lights are horrible for photography. So we'll talk about that then. Let's get started first. We're going to start with this edit, and I expect a lot of you out there should do this edit sometime this week and should put it up on the Facebook group, your final results. I want to see these things. And it's wonderful that you folks, take the little bit I give you and, man, you blast it out there with some really, really great edits. And I think that's a wonderful thing. So we're going to go ahead and get started with this one. Let me see, make sure I can cue it up here. All right. So, all right, let's get started. And I'll see you back here in just a few minutes. Hang in there, check it out, get a cup of coffee, get a piece of paper, and take a few notes, and I'll talk to you soon. In today's video, as you can plainly see on the screen right now, is going to be creating a cube. Now, these cubes are hot. I've seen these a lot around on different people's Facebook pages, and cubes are really interesting. So I wanted to show you how to make a cube and actually add pictures to it, such as this one. So let's go ahead and get started. We're going to just delete this particular cube, and I'm not going to save it. Now, what I am going to do here is we are going to start with a brand new file, and we're going to start with a blank file. And I'm just going to call the name of this file Cube. And click OK. Next, what we want to do with this cube is we want to give this background that we're going to use for our cube some color. So you see on my color palette over here, I have blue over white. So we're going to use blue, click the paint bucket, and we'll just paint this actual background blue. Next, what I'm going to do is we're simply going to come over here to the right to our fill and adjustment layers. And we're going to fill this with a pattern because we want to give the background a little bit of pizzazz. And you can use any pattern you wish to use. This is not a pattern class. This is a class on how to actually create the cube. Then once I do that, I'm just going to simply change the overlay because that doesn't look very pleasing, that black. Let's change the overlay to overlay. And that's going to allow that blue to show through our pattern. Now we're going to go to view and fit the screen just so we can make this a little bigger, and now we can start building our actual cube. Now the cube is very, very easy to build. Just follow along, and if you have any troubles, as always, just rewind the video. First, let's go ahead and start a new layer by clicking the New Layer tab. And we're going to go to our rectangle marquee tool. But now we want this to become a square and not really a rectangle. So hold your shift key down while left clicking and pulling out to make us perfect square. Then leave the mouse go, then leave your shift key go. Once you have that set, what we want to do now is we are going to fill that with a gradient of white over black. So down here on your color palette, click on the top here. It says default foreground background and flip it white over black. Click the gradient, and I want you to hold your shift key down again. Left click and drag from the left to the right and leave go. That is going to give us a white to a gradual black. Once we do that, I want you to just simply click Control or Command J and duplicate that. Once you have that duplicated, just to make this a little easier, I want you to double click on layer 2 and rename it Top, T-O-P. Now, once we have that done, let's click back on layer 1. And now we're going to go ahead and we're going to make some adjustments to layer 1. Go ahead and turn the top one off, the visibility, and we're just working with layer 1. What we're going to do first on layer 1 is we are going to go up to Image, Transform, Free Transform. Now we're just going to make some changes here to this. Now you can click here and drag up and drag over and pull it around like that. But I find it's just as easy, much easier actually, to actually type my values in. So let's go up here to the height. We want the total height to be 90%. So just type in there 90. Let's uncheck that constrained proportions. And on the width, let's just change the width to be 70. And now we have the proper width that we want. The next thing we want to do before we actually check the box here is we want to right click on top of this and we're going to go to skew. Now when you go to skew, this is basically going to be a adjustment that you're going to have to kind of get the feel for. There's no way to actually tell or give you a number of where we're adjusting this to, so we're just going to go ahead and make an adjustment to it. And I'll show you this. We're going to click on the right hand side on the black and just start pulling it straight up. And this is actually going to give us an angle for our cube. Let's pull it up here just a little bit higher, right about there. Now once we get that done, we are going to go ahead and click the checkbox. Once again, make sure you look at it and you'll see the angle here. You see my angle. Maybe I'll even give it a little bit more angle. And you will get the feel for this, folks. There's no way for me to tell you how high this is. You will just get the feel for where this angle should be. So you might have to do this a couple times. Click the checkbox. Now what we have to do is, we don't want to redo this all again. We could have created another layer and redid all these steps. It's easier if we just go ahead now and do a Command or Control J. Now we have the second layer, and it's clicked on this layer now. And what we want to do with that particular layer is we are going to go up under Image, Rotate, and then under Rotate, we're going to flip the layer horizontal. And what that does, we'll click the Move tool here, that gives us the other side of our box. You can see there we can actually put this on, and now we have the other side of our cube that we need. And that was a very, very simple way of doing that instead of trying to make all the layers and redoing that over and over and over. So here we have our two sides, our left side and our right side. If you wish, you can rename those layers, but you don't really have to. What we're going to do though is hold my shift key down, select both those layers. I'm going to move this over just a little bit, right about there. Now we're going to go ahead and we're going to work on this top layer. So click the visibility back on so we can turn it back on there once again. And now we're going to move this top layer around and get it put into our proper position. So once again, we're going to click on Image, Transform, Free Transform. We can see we moved it around there. Hold your shift key down and you're going to spin it. We're going to spin this around. Try to line this up as best we can here with the corner right here. And we're going to actually pull this up just a little bit. Not too far off the picture. And then we're going to hold down either our Alt or the Option key. And we're just going to click and drag it up. What happens then is you see it's flipping it over for us. It's actually flipping it on a three-dimensional plane for us here. So it's very easy to do. Leave go, you can drag this back a little bit. And what we're trying to do now is we are going to actually put this into the proper position there where we want to get it in and locked down. All right. Once you get that placed where you want it placed at, now the box is complete because we have a top on there. What you want to do now is hold down your shift or hold down your command or your control key and click on that top layer because we have to change the lighting pattern a little bit. So once again, we have white over black. Choose your gradient and hold your shift key down and click from the center and drag up. Now we have that light on both sides in the front and coming across the top. So it looks like we have a light shooting from the front. Next, what we need to do now is we are going to start adding some pictures to our cube. To do this, let's simply go here. You can see we already have the square made. Let's show you how I did that. Select, deselect. Once again, I just simply held my shift key down with my rectangle marquee tool, and I just simply clicked it over and drug out to the right, and click on edit, copy, and we're going to paste it right here. So edit, paste, and then we're just going to simply resize this till it looks to be the point of it's going to fit in the box. Click the little check box. Then go to Image, Transform, Distort, and we're just going to simply distort this and pull the edges onto the edges of the box. There we go. Again, we're going to pull this back. And we'll put that on there. Pull this down here just a little bit more. Just so it's on the edge of your box. Click the little check box. That's perfect. Now, as you put these on, I'm going to give you a little secret. The reason we wanted the gradient underneath for a lighting pattern, but you can see there's no lighting pattern on our picture. What we're going to do is change the blending mode again to overlay. That'll allow that white to black to come through, and now that lighting mode is actually on top of that picture, giving it our three-dimensional look. Let's go with our next picture here. I already have it selected the same way we did before. And you can use the shortcut keys, Command or Control C. And then we'll run this one. We can go Command or Control V to paste it. And if it's a little larger, just drag it from the top. Make sure Constrain Proportions is selected. We've learned that in the past. And once again, we're just going to make it so it's going to fit about that box size. Click the check box. Then we can go right up here again to Image, Transform and Distort. And we're just going to distort this one into this box. So as you see, it's a little time consuming, but most of our editing jobs that we do are. And this is what makes it fun to use Photoshop or Photoshop Elements, is because it allows us to do things with our pictures. And people's like, how did you do that? That's pretty amazing. That is what we're looking for, folks. When we do things with our pictures. Just try and get that dead on there. There we go. Once again, that's done. I'm going to change my blending mode to overlay. And I overlaid that one just to get my lighting effect. And we will go with this last picture right here. And we're going to actually deselect this. I don't like where this was. So we are going to hold our shift key down again. Oops. Oh, cancel that. Make sure we have this selected. This being the rectangle marquee tool. And again, we're going to shift and we'll pull this. I just wanted to get more of the dam in here. Again, I can do Command Control C to copy it and Command Control V to paste it. I'm going to resize this one down just a little bit. Put on top of our cube here, look about where we're at. Say, yep, that's pretty good. And we will do Edit, Transform, and Distort. And again, we're going to just distort this on top here. Just like so. And get these pictures on our cube. And we'll move on. Pulls down just a little bit more. Right about there. We're going to check the box here. Again, change your blending mode to overlay. Now you can see we have that nice light all the way around. Looks really good. All right, just check that. Okay, now what we're going to do is go down here to the bottom to our background layer. And we're just going to add a new layer. The only thing I want to do now is I want to make this box look more even like it's floating or more like it's three-dimensional. So what we're going to do there is just change this back, make our foreground black, grab a paintbrush, and we're just going to go underneath this box right about here. We'll make it just a little bigger. From one side to the other, just like so. Take the opacity and just drop it down a little bit on that. And that gives it that little shadow in the bottom like it's floating in the air. So once you're done, just click on File and save that out. Save it as a JPEG so you can have it printed, or do whatever you wish to do with the picture. You know, it's a great little edit. It's a lot of fun to do. All right, so you see here how easy it is to do the whole cube, and that's just a fun edit. All right, that's just a really, really fun edit. That's bring my camera back up here. It's just a fun edit to do, and I expect that a lot of you folks out there will have some of that on the Facebook wall there sometime today, sometime this week anyway, and hopefully, you know, we'll get to see some of those. So what I thought I would do now is we're going to walk through a little bit of, if you've never seen Photoshop Adobe Lightroom, this happens to be Lightroom 5, then I wanted to just take you a little bit of a walkthrough of my actual kind of the way I, my workflow, I guess. Now, I'm going to do something today that I've never done in the history of my photography career. And That is to load pictures onto Lightroom that I haven't looked at yet and share them with the group of people live. So that's something that I have to really, so if you look at these and say, wow, Jack shot that mess. Hey, sometimes it's just here and there, trial and error. Hey, I do want to say a good morning to my chat room there. I got Fabian in there. I got Peter in the UK. We just had, let's see if I can pronounce this right. Vonley. It's Valangley. Good morning to you. Good morning, Andy Taylor. And good morning to Jake the Snake. Appreciate you folks being in there this morning with me. And you're in, okay, or Virginia. Good morning, Virginia, to you. All right. So, and Fabian said, thanks for having us. No, actually, folks, I got to always say, and good morning to 54889. Good morning to you. Great little chat room going on there this morning. And Fabian, I want to reverse that back and say, you know what? Thanks to you folks for allowing me in your computer rooms, your living rooms. You're allowing me to come into your home to bring you this broadcast. So hopefully it's well worth your time to sit there this morning, have a little bit of coffee, and join me. And it's a great time every Sunday morning to sit and spend some time with all you folks here on Vaughn Live. So we're gonna go now. Fabian is probably one of the most the person that uses Lightroom the most that I know of. I probably use it probably second to Fabian, but anyway, he does a lot of portrait work and stuff. He has a studio, so he does a lot more professional side. And I'm not really sure what Peter uses in the UK. Peter's also a professional photographer in England, and he shoots a lot of weddings, a lot of portraits. But I'm going to show you around Lightroom a little bit, just to kind of give you a feel for it. I have my memory card ready here. I'm kind of sweating bullets because I haven't seen these pictures, and I hope that you folks enjoy this little journey through my pictures. And we're going to show you a little bit around Lightroom and what you can do with it, because I get so many emails every week that says, Jack, do I need Lightroom and do I need Photoshop Elements, or can I just have Photoshop Elements? Can I just have Lightroom? That answer is, I would say no. If you want to do any editing, major editing on your pictures, layers, and work, you need a copy of some kind of Photoshop. And I recommend Elements because of the price point. All right, I'm going to switch around here. Let me get to desktop. I do want to take the photography guy off of there just for a few minutes. And we're going to jump over to my Lightroom. All right, so this is Lightroom, as I stated that already, and we're going to put the memory card. Now, there's a couple different ways, and you folks, a lot of you take pictures, a lot of pictures already, but there's a lot of different ways you can get your photos into your computer. One, the old-fashioned way is you hook up a micro USB cable or a mini USB cable to your computer and plug your camera in. That is generally a huge downfall for me, and I'll tell you why. Because it eats up your camera battery. Your camera has to be turned on for your pictures to transfer. The second way you can transfer your pictures on to your computer is a memory card reader. I suggest if you buy a memory card reader, buy one that has multiple slots in it. Don't just buy an SD reader or a, whatever memory card you have, micro SD reader. Buy one that has multiple slots. The reason for that is if you buy a new camera later, you don't have to buy another memory card reader, and they're all about the same price. The way that I like to do it in today's most modern laptops, I use a iMac desktop. Even in your computer, you can put an internal card reader in your computer. And, they don't cost much, maybe $15. Well, what's nice about those, you take your card out, your SD card, and you just slide it into the computer, and you can copy those off. So we're going to do that right now. We're going to put this memory card into the computer here. And let me go ahead and put this in a slot. So I plugged it into the slot. Probably the first thing that's going to come up is my Dropbox thing. Yep, which it did. It's over here. It says keep your memory safe. Put all your pictures on Dropbox. We're not going to do that. We're going to hit cancel. And hopefully, and it's not coming up. So if it doesn't come up, we're going to go to Lightroom and click on Import at the bottom left. And what's going to happen when you click on Import, you're going to get that photo card to come up. Now, the memory card itself is going to come up on your screen with the importer. It tells me what camera it was shot with, the Nikon D600 is what I was using last night. And these are the pictures I took. I didn't take a whole lot of the basketball game because I really didn't know anybody in the game. As I stated earlier, we were there for my stepdaughter to receive an award during halftime is why we were there. Once that was over, we actually left. The next thing we're going to do is we have to know where we're going to put these pictures. So if you go over to the right-hand side, it says you're going to, well, let's start back at the top. It's taking it from the memory card. It's copying it. It says here, copy, move, or add. It's lit up as copy. And what we're going to do with copy is, where are we going to copy it to? Well, we're going to copy it to my hard drive, or this can be an external drive, or wherever you want to put the pictures. What I do is, let me close this. Apply after import, file handling, we'll close that. Because what I want to show you here, on the right now, there is a little box that says organized by date, date format, and it tells you the date format. So we're looking at importing these pictures, but I put them in a subfolder. In that subfolder, we can give it a name. Penn State Award. That's good. That's going to put that under my pictures folder on my hard drive. So even if this is your Windows computer, it'll put it under pictures or my pictures or whatever it's called on your computer. And now it's going to create a subfolder called Penn State Award, whatever it is, child's birthday. What we're doing here is making sure that the photos are organized. If you just dump them all into pictures folder, you will have a bad time in life trying to back those up one day because you don't know what's in each folder. That's very important to name them properly. All right, let's go to import. This is going to start our import of our pictures and start pulling those into Lightroom. So as you see here, if you can see at the upper right-hand side, I don't know how well it's coming through on the video. Looks like it's all right. It says it's copy and import photos. So it's pulling those in now to that folder, and Lightroom is adding it to the Lightroom database. Now, if you don't know what a database is, that's okay. You don't need to know. It's just a place where the computer organizes information. So it's organizing the pictures into the Lightroom for you. And we're just bringing this up. Like I said, I haven't looked at these previously, so we're just going to just showing you the workflow here, how it works. I often said that Lightroom is one of the greatest organizers for photos. And the reason I say that is because if you use something like iPhoto, iPhoto tends to put everything into what's called the photo library. And then in the photo library, all the pictures are kind of in there, but they're really not organized into folders. They're more organized into dates. And it gets really complicated when you have to back that thing up to put it somewhere. So in the Photoshop Elements Organizer, I've used it for years. I still believe in it. If it's all you have, it's fine. You can use the Photoshop Elements Organizer in much the same way I'm showing you now. So in Photoshop Elements, and I should show you that sometime, but when you import your pictures, so you import the pictures and you have them like this. Okay, so they're imported into our Lightroom. Just pretend like this is your Elements Organizer. It could be anything. The first thing before you double click any of these pictures to look at them is to go up to Edit and select All. So grab all those photos, and we're going to go to Library here, or if it's in your organizer, you'll go to New Album. We're going to go to New Collection, and we're going to call this the same thing I named the folder, Penn State Award. This way I have consistency throughout my whole workflow, my whole process. I know where the pictures are, and the pictures are in the same folders, what the album is named in my organizer, so everything's really clean. If I go inside the collection, I have a couple things here. Holidays, Kids, Smart Collection, and Trips. I reloaded my computer recently. If you watch any of the past shows, this used to be really full, and I didn't pull that old database back. I just started from scratch. I'm going to go under Kids. That way I know if I'm under Kids, that's all stuff based on what our children have done over the years. There's birthdays in there and everything. So there's a ton of stuff in there. So anyway, we're going to say include selected photos. So we're going to include the selected photos into that actual album or that collection. So let's go ahead and do that. Click on Create. It's going to create that new album or collection. and it put the pictures in there. It's 41 pictures. Now this is big and this is huge because I can go back now to, let's say, Christmas, but I'm going to go back to Penn State Award, and now I can work with these pictures. I don't have to worry later on about trying to find out where they are to build that collection. I think that's huge in making sure you have a proper workflow. The next thing I do in my workflow in Lightroom is I start to tag my pictures. So let's say, for instance, we're going to tag them based on clarity, focus, and whatnot. So we're going to double click the first picture here. If you double click it, you get it as a full screen picture. Let me back up a little bit. Here's how I shot these photographs. First of all, I used my Sigma. It's a 70 by 200 millimeter 2.8 lens. So it's a big lens, it's a heavy lens. If you're shooting a long time, I would recommend with those lenses to use something like a monopod. The next thing I did was I shot these on aperture priority mode. And the reason I did that is I told you I don't always shoot in manual mode. And the reason that is because manual mode, I have to change settings based on where that lens is going. If I'm on aperture priority mode or shutter priority mode, I'm allowing the camera, I'm saying, look, this is the aperture I want to set it at. So I was shooting at 3.2, because it was very low light. And I can move that camera back and forth and allow that camera to actually do its job and calculate the lighting and everything I need. Now, I was shooting at a very high ISO, and let me see if I can bring this up on the screen here. So let's see here. So the ISO I was shooting at was 1600. And the reason I wanted to do this is because I don't shoot flash, obviously, with this stuff. You got to be careful, folks, when you're shooting flash. If you're at your kids' basketball games, any indoor sport, if you're watching them do a musical or if you're watching them do a chorus concert, and you flash, you blind the whole participating people. So if the basketball player is coming down the court and you're standing at the end of the court and you flash in their eyes, chances are they're going to be really upset with you when they miss that basket or whatever happens. So something to think about. So I shoot at a very high ISO. I use a very low aperture so I can still have a very moderately high shutter speed. All right, because all those calculate into each other, but that's getting into another lesson. So here we see my first picture. Then I just go through these. I go, okay, well, that shows, okay, nothing really. So I'm not going to do anything with that. This shows the group getting ready to play ball. And what I'll do with this group is I'll do something like set a flag. So I'll click on the bottom and I'll set a flag on that. I'm going to go through and look. That's a pretty cool shot, but he's kind of out of focus. He's out of focus. And as you see, I didn't look at these previously. That looks like it's not too bad. Let's say I want to keep this one. Everybody's in focus. I'm going to set a flag. And this is my stepdaughter there sitting. She was working the game, so we'll want to flag that. That's the whole crew there working. We're going to flag that. And I just go through and I look at these. That's a pretty good shot, huh? Pretty good action shot. I don't know who these guys are, but, you know, I like basketball pitchers. I don't like that one. We're going to flag this. The idea of flagging is we're building right now what we want to edit. So you want to just go through real fast on your workflow and say, look, these are good shots. I want to maybe edit these or do some lighting work or whatever. I took a picture of this guy here, this young man playing basketball. He was about 5'1", and I'm not kidding. You can see how much shorter he is to everybody else, but he had a lot of great ambition, and he shot really well. Anyway, let's go through. There he is. You can see how small he is compared to everybody else, but he was a really, really good guy. So I'm going to go through here and look, and here's my stepdaughter receiving her award. So, yeah, we definitely want that picture. And what happens is once you get all these pictures, you can delete all the ones that's not flagged. So I want everything with her, and I'm not going to go through all these. Let's say right there, okay. Now, the idea is when we go back to this grid view, we can now filter just those flagged pictures. So if I go up here at the top, it's at the very top right, it says filters off. If I click that pull down, I just want to see what's been flagged. Click on that, and now you can see we took all those pictures, and we took it down to a total of 13. So there's 13 that I flagged, and these are the pictures that I want to edit and keep and do things with. Now, If you remember a few weeks back, we talked about this, and we talked about the ability to um, the ability to this is Vicky. Oh, good morning, Vicky is 54889 in the chat room. The nice thing about Lightroom is the ability to do what they call syncing across all the files. So I shot all these pictures in the same gymnasium. So if I adjust the lighting, the exposure, the saturation for one picture, I can apply that for all the pictures, all the rest of my pictures. Now let me show you how that's done. We simply grab one of the pictures, and we're going to shut that information off at the top. We're going to go into what's called the develop mode. There's two modes that I primarily use. As you can see, there's more up there. One is called library. Library is your organizer. You're going to organize your pictures. You're going to put them all in. You're going to create your collections, your collection sets. The next part about Photoshop Lightroom is called the develop mode. The develop mode is more your editor. That's where you're going to do some editing, cleaning up. But you're not going to create layers. You're not going to get rid of huge mistakes on your pictures. You're not going to create a cube that we just had this morning on the video I showed you. You're not going to make a cube in Lightroom. But if you're doing a wedding, you can process your wedding pictures for lighting, exposure, saturation, whatnot. I've done 400 wedding pictures, in a couple hours using Lightroom because it's just minor adjustments that you want to make. Also, if you remember, was it last week we talked about RAW and JPEG? Same thing here. I did shoot all these in RAW because I knew I wasn't shooting a whole lot. So we're going to go into the develop mode. The develop mode now is, you can see on the right, gives me my histogram and starts to give me stuff like cropping. I can get rid of some spot removal stuff, just basic spot removal. It gives me a red eye removal tool, which I think is kind of lame for a professional version of any software, because professionals like us, we don't shoot red eye. Okay, we don't get red eye. It gives us something here called the graduated filter. I've showed that before in some shows. A radial filter and a brush, an adjustment brush, so we can make multiple adjustments to multiple parts. This isn't a Lightroom session as much as I'm just giving you a feel and look at Lightroom to see what it's capable of, and then you can maybe use it later. So what we're going to do is we're going to make some minor adjustments here. First thing I'm going to do is adjust my white balance. I'm going to look for something white on the floor or on their pants. I got to make sure it's pretty white. We're going to go with the logo here. So I click that. You can automatically see it getting cooler, right? The blues came really up and it really fixed that up really nice. And when I did that, what I did was I created a custom white balance just by using the eyedropper tool. And the white balance we talked about last week when shooting RAW, I have every option in here. So we're going to leave it on that. That adjusted my temperature and my tint. That took care of that for me. The next thing is exposure. Maybe we want these to be just a little bit more exposure. I tend to run things just a little bit underexposed because I like the deeper, richer colors. Contrast, you can play with highlights. So any of this stuff in here, these are just sliders. You might want to knock the highlights down, get that floor to look better. And as you can see, the overall appearance of our picture is just more pleasing. Okay, that's what you're shooting for. So it doesn't matter, if you're the greatest photographer in the world and you shoot beautiful pictures, they always look just a little bit better if you just touch them up a little bit. So saturation, you can saturate it more. That's a little bit too much blue, so we're going to pull it back a little bit. You could desaturate, right? You can make it a black and white photo right there. So, okay, so we're going to saturate it. There we go. And what we're going to do now is, hopefully this works, is we are going to take these settings, and we are going to sync those across our other pictures. So I'm going to use that as my first picture, and I'm going to go down, click on the click on the first picture, hold my control key down, or my command key, and I'm going to click on the other pictures. And what I'm going to do here is, once I have them all selected, is hit sync over underneath our color control panel. That's going to sync those original settings for this one, and I hope it syncs it across. So if I hit sync, it's going to ask me what do I want to sync. White balance, basic tone, exposure, contrast. That's all we mess with. I just leave all the defaults checked. That way I don't have to worry about going through and unchecking them. You can even click check all, but just hit sync. So when we synchronize these, it's going to synchronize those settings across all of our pictures on the bottom. And we can tell this, if you can see these pictures on the bottom, we can tell this now because underneath them there's a little plus minus sign. That means that there has been some Adobe Lightroom adjustments applied to these pictures. And if you look at each one of these now the bluers are blue, everything's richer, the floors look really good, and it just took that little bit of time clicking at. Now you're going to say, Jack, that's all well and good and everything, and I think that's wonderful and it looks good to be able to do that very quickly. But wonder if I do want to do those full edits. Then what? Then I got to take the pictures in the organizer. I got to edit. No, you don't, because Elements and Photoshop Lightroom all play very nicely together. That's just the way they are. And what I mean by that is they all play very nicely together. And the reason they play nicely together, right, is because they've all been basically written by the same person, Adobe. So if I right-click on this picture, we're going to go down here, and we're going to say Edit In, and we can edit it right in Photoshop Elements 13. So if I click on that, it's going to say Photoshop Elements, edit a copy with the Lightroom adjustments, because we want those adjustments. And we just click on Edit. And now that will pull this organizer into that particular, that overall, editor, without having to re-put them in another organizer and pull that back up. So the Elements editor is opening up. Here we go. And you'll see here that we can now edit this picture as we have always edited our pictures. It throws us right in the expert mode. We can do a Control or Command G to make a duplicate copy, and then you can start doing your edits as you normally would. So Photoshop Elements, Lightroom, and also we looked at last week, the one question I had from from Susan said, Jack, do I need Lightroom if I'm going to shoot RAW? And no, you don't. Definitely do not use, you don't need Lightroom when you shoot RAW. So that's just stuff to think about. So that's about all I wanted to show you in Lightroom, was just a little bit of the workflow. Once you're done, you can go back to Library. And we can go into Library here. Go back to my grid view. And here's what I like to do. Once I know what pictures I want, what I can do then is go back. I go up here on my flagged and put flags off. So these are all the pictures that don't have a flag set on them. Oh no, I guess there is flags on there. So, but if you want to break these down, you will look here and you will click on, let's click on unrated and see if that does it. No, there's no unrated. But with the flags, there we go. So if you click on the top here, it says flags, flag based on unflagged photos. When you look at unflagged photos, you can just delete the ones you don't need anymore, because this is just a quick way to filter out what you want and what you don't want. Just a really, really nice way to be able to do that. All right. Okay, so anyway, I hope that really helps you out there this morning. Like I said, I hope to see some of those out there. I hope to see some people out there with some great photos. Some cubes coming up on our Facebook wall, and I hope to get those in there. Start seeing some of your edits. Folks, I want to thank you very much for tuning into this show. If you're downloading this from iTunes, again, please subscribe and watch it on YouTube. You can find those at 42 Technoman. I do still have the DVD collection available, and actually some of those have sold this week. So if you're in the market and you say, man, I want to know more about Photoshop Elements, then just go to jackstechcorner.com and you can order one of those DVDs. They're still very, very inexpensive, and I will ship that out. I usually ship the next day, maybe the day after, so you'll have it pretty rapidly. But if you have decent internet connection, a high-speed internet, I would recommend that you go to jtclearning.com. jtclearning.com. And I'm putting together new classes there all the time. And don't think of them as classes. Think of them as learning Photoshop elements from A to Z. There's no tests or anything like that. All you do is watch videos. And I know many of you out there saying, Jack, I can watch these on YouTube for free. You can. You can. But what happens is, and I tried to learn that way in the past, is you start to piecemeal, right? That would be like going to school and starting in the 11th grade and then maybe going back to the 8th grade and then going back to 12th grade and then going back to 2nd. You're piecemealing. The way I teach is I teach from beginning to end. So we look at the organizer, pulling in photos, we look at all that stuff, all the tools in Elements, and I teach you how to use those from beginning to end. That's what you want, is a very organized way of learning. So that's where these classes come in handy at jtclearning.com. Just click on the link bring that up. At the top it says courses. Click on that right below that, and you can actually see there's 2 Photoshop Elements courses. There's 12 and 13 in there. So you can take one of those, and hopefully you will do so. Folks, I have to ask you a big favor. You know, if you want to support this show and you're like, I just don't have, and many of us are living on limited means in this lifetime, and you say, Jack, I just don't have money to take your classes. I don't have money to donate to the show. That's okay. You know, because if you buy anything on Amazon, anything, and somebody at work said, man, anything I buy on Amazon is diapers for my baby. That's okay. You can buy whatever you want, whatever you need in your house. Go to my website at thephotographyguy.net, and when you're there, and also at jackstechcorner.com, there's an Amazon link. Bookmark it. Anytime you go to buy from Amazon, go to that bookmark and say, Jack's Amazon bookmark, and then make your purchase. It don't cost you anything more, and proceeds come back to the show and keep these shows going. As I told you, I've been working so hard with this streaming and with the videos to try to make it the very, very best I can do for you. So if you buy anything, just, you know, if you put a link on your page, or if you put a link on a shortcut on your desktop and just say, hey, I'm going to use Amazon, just double click it, and there's nothing different, but it does help the proceeds come back to the show. Folks, other than that, I hope you have a great work week. I do want to say good morning to, let's see here. I do want to look at the chat room here before I go. Is it just me, but the video was real jumpy? I don't know if it jumped or not. Sometimes that could happen. It started to lag a bit, Fabian said. Jake said, wasn't an issue when showing Photoshop Elements 11 or Lightroom. When Jack talks, it was really noticeable. I think that's because with all the audio processing and everything going on in the computer, that could break the stream down just a little bit there. So hopefully everything caught up to itself again there. And Brian Wood said it's just fine where he's at. So hopefully everything's running okay and we're coming along. This is very, very hard, folks. You cannot believe how hard it is to stream, especially I'm trying to stream HD content. And I talked to the wife. She okayed it to buy a new computer to stream with. But what I'm on the fence with is I got to also be able to record it for YouTube. So it's not just streaming it. It's also being able to have the content to put on YouTube. I'm trying to figure that out. And outside of buying, you know, a $20,000 or $30,000 TriCaster, can't do that. I mean, I can't, you know, give the house, put the house up to buy the TriCaster. If I was doing shows every day, I would. But and that would be great. But anyway, we do the very best. Hopefully it looked okay and we're doing all right. I'll be able to look at this after a while and see how it did turn out. So, all right, folks, thank you so much. Have a great, great work week. Keep those shutters clicking. Keep those editors editing. And I'll see you back here next Sunday on The Photography Guy. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for tuning in to The Photography Guy. I am a photography guy, and I'll be here once again next time for more photography tips and tricks. If you're not subscribed, please subscribe to the show and enjoy the music.